Yes, I started.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you very much, firstly, for inviting me, Suchitra, for this lecture. It's been almost after 6 to 7 years I'm providing this kind of a lecture to the students, and it really feels nice to impart this knowledge to the future leaders because the young generation is a future of the country and this world as well. So yeah, to start with the careers in space, welcoming all walks of life. I would like to first give a brief introduction about myself. So my name is Omkar Nikam, and I am the founder of Axis of Space Defense and Security, and we provide space and defense consulting as well as kind of strategy management, threat intelligence, providing strategy management to the government agencies about how to reduce the espionage cases, especially in the space industry. So there are a wide range of topics that we cover in our services for in this under the space defense and security domain, but primary focus is on space applications for defense and security. And I'm originally from India, but since past 7 years I've been residing in France, and that's where my companies are registered. And we work with several clients across Latin America, United States, India as well, and several other Asian countries. And primarily our base is Europe. So to start with this lecture, I would like to first tell you that today's lecture is really not about uh, how and when how you can actually become a space engineer or how you can actually enter ISRO or how you can enter NASA, because today's lecture is about the reason, cause, and to question yourself, especially on the social terms about what exactly you want to do in space and why you want to do it. So I'm just going to give you the pointers, of course, but it's your personal perspective that you have to gel in and try to find out in the near future, like why you want to do the career in space. So without any delay, I would like to start the lecture. So this is the outline of the lecture, that why space, then beyond STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Then understanding the strategic aspects of a career in space, then importance of social sciences, and finally it's the conclusion. So yeah, why space? So the thing is, we all are associated with space, like we are a part of the universe itself. We all have the atoms inside our not only our body but in our soul as well. So we are a part of space since our origin. But this is a philosophical answer. But in a practical terms, in a day-to-day life, we have been using space technology for ages. It's been through in terms of navigation, communication, then satellite-based Earth observation. So especially if I give you the example of Google Maps, now it's available literally on every kind of phone. Like the kind of phone doesn't even matter. Google Maps is available everywhere. Same is with the GPS. This all things are possible because of the satellite systems, and satellite systems, of course, is and comes under the space technology. So space, I would say, people shouldn't really give space a unique world stage or something. They shouldn't look something that is out of this world. It is a part of our world because space, we live space technology with space technology in our daily life. Even I would like to give the example because many of you might be even watching live sports match like cricket, football. So these things, the live broadcasting is possible because there is satellite system, and those of course are the communication satellite, broadcasting satellites. So even there, even in the media industry, even in the sports industry, there's a connection of space industry in this way, where the live matches are broadcasted. Secondly, thirdly, I think you'll be seeing a lot of weather reports on the news channel in the mainstream media, and that is a part of satellite-based Earth observation. And even the houses that you're currently living in, these are made up through a system called as urban planning. And even in that, the satellite-based Earth observation techniques are used, the resources are used. And so if we see now, right from navigation to literally the building of your house, we use space technology everywhere. So it's not really something new, but it feels new because people have not been so much aware, and the communication technology was not really developed back then. But now it is very well developed. People know why, the kind of tools we use these days. So space is a part of our daily lives. So proceeding ahead, I would say so today I won't be stressing much on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but I'll be focusing more on the social sciences aspect. So, but it doesn't mean that you should ignore STEM. So understanding STEM is equally important as much as understanding the social sciences aspect of the space industry. So my always suggestion is understand STEM, but do not forget to look beyond STEM, because this will help you understand and unlock the secrets of human ambitions and cooperations. Because space exploration, or even doing a nominal research in the space industry requires a thorough research, investment, and cooperation from each and every country, organization, and a group of people. So at the end, it's a teamwork. And teamwork is something that you learn through understanding thorough nature of the human behavior and cooperation. That's the reason, like, the cooperation is the basis for everything. And one of the finest example is International Space Station. So if you look at both United States and Russia, these two countries have been war with each other since past 70 years, but or maybe before that as well. But the International Space Station was an excellent example where two countries with no similar interest were still cooperating together. So even these countries knew that to advance the level of science technology in the space industry, we need to cooperate. So this is where this how the space technology or the space industry's dynamics work, where it possibly urges people to cooperate. And I think this cooperation is something that comes out of learning the social sciences aspect in space industry. Of course, being an engineer, you can definitely develop absolutely amazing amount of technologies. You can develop good components. You can develop possibly high end rockets and launch vehicles. But social science aspect is something that you will learn only when you are possibly in and around a lot of humans. And I think that's where the social sciences aspect come into the play. You have to cooperate with the people as much as possible. Even doesn't matter even if your interests are not aligning, but cooperation brings more fruitful results in the space industry, because the technology is complex, the landscape is complex. Minute error can possibly lead to several amount of losses. So the prime difference between STEM. So the reason I told you that both the STEM subjects are important and the social sciences, that is, I have given it the name as non-STEM just for the layman's term. Uh, Both are important because STEM is the architectural backbone of the space industry. Like without STEM, you cannot really make any kind of system, any kind of satellite. And without non-STEM, you cannot really run it. Like how will you generate the money? How will you publicize or create an outreach? I would like to give an excellent example about NASA over here. Like people know that NASA has achieved a lot of things. They have been, the first agency to successfully achieve several milestones in the deep space exploration as well. But I would like to tell that European Space Agency's mission called as Rosetta, which you can definitely go online and search again, uh, is one of the finest mission. But unfortunately, the world doesn't know much about it. The world always knows about NASA because NASA has excellent amount of outreach, and this outreach is something is a part of social sciences where communication matters a lot. The way you convey your message, the way you convey your achievements, the way you convey the amount of efforts put into the mission matters a lot. And this is a clear difference where you'll get to know the way NASA has its outreach and the way European Space Agency or even ISRO has its outreach. So that's the reason. Like I'm pretty sure today in India, even if you go to some rural parts, or even in Africa, or even in Latin America, or even then in the Middle East, if you go to some rural parts, they won't be knowing possibly what is European Space Agency or what is ISRO or what is JAXA, but they'll definitely know what is NASA. It's because the cultural influence, the social aspect of the outreach has been so strong that people got to know what is NASA even before they know what exactly is the definition or even the full form of it. So whenever you say the word NASA, they just know that it is something out of Earth, like something related to the space. So this is the thing of social sciences. It helps you to convey the message and cast a wide net of influence over the things. And yeah, understanding the strategic aspects of career in space. So as I said, like I'm not going to tell you uh, whether to become an engineer or whether to become a CEO or whether to start a company. That's absolutely up to you. But I would like to tell you some of the strategic aspect which will help you gear up your career, whether you are an engineer or whether you want to be a manager or whether you want to open a business in the space industry. You have to understand the first three elements, that is power, influence, and dominance. I would like to clarify one thing, which has not been very well clarified through a lot of space education platforms, is that space, of course, there is a commercialization, there are a lot of aspects, but space, history of space was started from the aspect of war. It was started by Hitler. Of course, the first rocket was made by Chinese, but space as a strategic resource was started by Hitler, and he made the first rocket. Even the Apollo rockets, launch vehicles that were made, which put the Apollo spacecraft in the orbit, was made by the German scientist. So you have to always remember that space is not really something you can always talk about in a peaceful manner. So that's the reason I have kept here in yellow, like peaceful use. Of course, there are peaceful use in terms of commercialization and all, but space is still highly dominant tool under the government. So until the government doesn't give the money to the private organizations, until then the private organizations cannot survive. This is at least the current state of the industry. And the military, it's a prime, the consumer of the space resources has always been since the time of Hitler, and even today is the military. So you have to always consider this factor that, of course, if you are going to work in the space industry, it's not going to be fully for the purpose of the benefit of the people and all. It's more from the power, influence, dominance, political, strategic aspect, and the military aspect. It's not always going to be from the peaceful use point of view. There are some peaceful aspects, as I mentioned, like Google Maps, navigation. These things help people these days, but that's a very small part of it. The huge part of space is more related to the power, influence, dominance, and politics. So five pillars of strength I would like to convey to you, where you can possibly starting any kind of career. I would say not only in the space industry but in any part of the world you are, and whether you want to even become a doctor, an artist, or even want to start a consumer product business, anything you want to do, you have to remember this five pillars of strength, that is cause, reasons, significance, cooperation, and confidence. So why cause? First you have to understand why you're doing it. Like that's I would say from my personal experience, I would like to share. Like today, I write articles for several magazines. I've been quoted by several newspapers. But I would like to tell that I actually flunked one of my English papers in 8th standard, because my thought process has always been is because until I don't know why I'm studying this, until I don't know why I'm doing that thing, till then I cannot crack the code. So this is from a personal experience I am telling you, and I have observed this within my team as well, people who have worked under me. Like if you give the people the reason or the cause of why they are doing the things they want to do, then the productive results will be start coming out without any kind of pressure or much efforts. So first understand really the cause and the reason why you want to get into the space industry. Coming to the part of reason is like have a justification for yourself. Now giving a justification that okay, I want to do something good for the humanity, no, that's not. You have to justify it to you yourself, because it helps you overcome hard times. Because in hard times, believe me, it's neither the society, it's neither the government, it's neither your colleagues who will be there with you to go through that hard time. It's only you and you alone will be facing it. Neither your parents will be there. So give yourself a reason, because space industry, as I said, it's highly dependent on the government finances. So things can go down the next second also. The way government, if they change their national interest, they might pull out the investment, and tomorrow your company can go even bankrupt. So you need to have an action plan for that, what you're going to do. Then comes the significance. Like try to give yourself importance on the basis of research, analyzing, and measuring the impact on yourself and your loved ones as well. Like for example, if you're really stepping into the space industry, try to find out some of the anecdotes of if something is inspiring you, you find something passionate. Okay, if you find something passionate, then to what extent you can give yourself to it. Because uh, giving your everything and not getting any results out of it won't lead to any results. So that's the reason you need to know the significance. Fourth thing is the cooperation. So always remember, I have observed this among my several, I would say, former colleagues, and even in the industry, I see this thing. So people, as I said, we have to normalize the thing. The word space, when we say the word space, people go woo because it's a rocket science. But as I said previously, it's not really rocket science. It's something that we use on an everyday basis. And when people go woo, people in the space industry, are kind of much more proud in the sense that they are on cloud nine, which shouldn't be there. Because always remember this aspect of social sciences: cooperation is everything. Whether you're in business or whether you're in street, cooperation will bring you the fruitful aspect. And the more proud you are, the more you'll be the first person to fall in life. So remember with this one thing: no matter what happens, do not let the pride take over you. Always make sure to cooperate, because as I said, this industry is dependent on the government finances. So if things go southward, you are going to need a lot of cooperation from your colleagues, from your even from the people with whom your interests don't align. So make sure you cooperate with people even in tough times, rather than of course, showcasing any kind of attitude and all. Because space industry does bring this kind of aura, where you might be pushed to kind of have some kind of little bit more attitude than what the normal people have. But make sure that you don't have that, because having those will just put you down the line of not getting fruitful cooperation from the people. And the last thing is the confidence. uh,
Omkar,
yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but the presentation
Okay.
we are not able to see now.
Oh, all right, okay, I'll share it again. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see.
All right, okay. So the last thing is the confidence. I always tell some of my the people who worked under me that confidence really doesn't have any kind of limits. Of course, you have to just make sure that there is no overconfidence, because even a minute error in the space industry might shatter all your expectations to achieve the successful targets. So make sure you deliver as if there is no tomorrow. Have that much confidence where you pitch, even if you're pitching your space technology business to the investors, or you're presenting some idea to the government, like several of the ISRO scientists did. back when the government was not so much in favor of financing or allocating significant budgets to the space technology. But our scientists, several people, they made it possible because they had the confidence. So always deliver as if there is no tomorrow. And finally, the importance of social sciences. So generally, people ask me what are the skill set you need to be successful in everything. So I always tell people that I mean, of course, you won't be experiencing now at this age, but once you complete your graduation, you will come to know the only things really you need in your life to crack any kind of career. It's not only in the space industry, but any kind of career is going to be setting your own narrative. And setting your own narrative means having a good skill set or sharpened skill set in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Because there are several terms like I'm a consultant, uh, then there are salespeople, then there is a business positions in the space industry. So anything and everything that is in the non-technical side literally requires only these four skills. Because see, I'm a consultant, but I might be writing about space technology, I might be writing about space politics, astropolitics, but literally the basic skills that I work on every day, that I use in every day of my business and my profession, is literally reading, writing, listening, and speaking, because my writing is my bread and butter. So make sure that you have this four skills sharpened in your life, because a lot of people, they possibly are the university toppers in their mechanical engineering or even BA economics, but what they lack is the top-notch skills in this four skill set. Like they don't really have the sharpen themselves in this four skill set. So these four skill sets are very important, especially as I said, when it comes to cooperation. So literally, when you want to cooperate, when you want to get funding from the investor, that is where you want to set your own narrative. You want to convince the government, you want to convince the investors that how how they can fund your idea, how the government can give you the preference. For that, you need to set your own narrative strategy, and for that, you're going to need, of course, either a good writing or either a good speaking skill. And because you might call yourself a founder and CEO and whatever you want, but what you're going to use as on a basic level skill set is literally speaking, because you're going to speak with the government, you're going to speak with the investors to get funding for your idea, funding for your business, funding for your project. So these are the only four skill set. Rest, I think, degrees are something. I would say I would like to compare this thing. Your degrees are your possibly I would say a passport, but this skill set are your boarding pass. Like until you don't have the boarding pass, you cannot get on the plane. Your degrees are your passport. With that you can travel the world, but this skill set will help you set a unique narrative for yourself, set a unique stage for your idea as well. So make sure that you sharpen this skill set very well. I'm pretty sure that you won't get the connection of what I'm saying right now, but I'm pretty sure down the line when you have graduated after your bachelor's, you'll come to know that these four skill set are very important, because especially in the world of social media that we live in, uh, every person is a journalist these days, in a minor way. Because we all are publishing, we all have social media, we all have Instagram, we all have LinkedIn, we all have Twitter. So every person in a way is a journalist in themselves today. And if you really want to influence people through the online strategy, you need this four skill set. You need to know how to respond, you need to know how to speak, you need to know how to write, when to write, and what to write. So you need to sharpen this four skill set if you want to stay ahead of the curve. I would say not only in the space industry, even if tomorrow, even if you make a career in pharmacy, or maybe in possibly culinary sciences, or maybe something else, economics as well, you have to have this four skill set, because these are very important for the modern time. And finally, yeah, I would like to conclude this session by saying that because the world that we live in today, as I told you that space industry, it started from Hitler. So you have to make sure that this industry is going to be agile and unpredictable at times. And that's the reason I'm telling, like, before becoming anything, you should first become a good human being, because it is very important that if you're not really a good human being, you can't really achieve much in life. I mean, you might launch 1,000 satellites, but if you are not really caring about the people who are under you, then there is not much, I would say, things that you have done in your life. For example, I mean, today definitely we all are cheering. Even I'm cheering up for Chandrayana 3. But the town that I'm living in right now, and several towns in India as well, half of them we don't have proper, I would say, water. Half of them don't even have a proper electricity. So I think these things can be improved with the space technology, of course. But to view this from the lens of social aspect, you have to be a good human being first. Because until you don't look it from a social aspect, you cannot, or become a good human being, you cannot really solve these problems. So I would say, before becoming a space engineer, or a space or a manager in the space industry, or a business person in the space industry, first become a good human being. And this is very much related to and inspired me from a quote from a movie called Captain America: The First Avenger, where Abraham Erskine, who urges Steve Rogers to take the syringe, I think serum. Before taking the serum, a day before that, he tells him that, whatever happens tomorrow, you must promise me one thing, that you'll stay who you are, not a perfect soldier, but a good man. So it literally means, doesn't matter even if you become a perfect Avenger or perfect soldier tomorrow or not, but you should stay a good person. That's what is matters, because even if you fall tomorrow, even if your business goes bankrupt, even if your life goes bankrupt, in a way, I would say, if you're a good human being at heart, you can definitely resolve the issue, you can definitely build up again, you can definitely start up again and become successful again. So you have to be a good human being first, I would say, because, as I said, this industry is at times very much unpredictable. So be good at heart, think good about everyone, and cooperate with people at every level. So if you have any questions or suggestions, I'm happy to take it.
Thank you, Omkar. It was a very good session and very
Yes,
important one as well, because
yes,
it gave a very different perspective, a big picture perspective, so to
yeah,
say. Because so far the sessions we have had, they've all been like science and tech related only.
yeah,
It's mostly like aerospace or space tech
yeah,
focused. But this was very good in terms of how all the fields can are needed for space, and also in terms of character building, or that way also as a human being
yes,
it was very valuable.
yes,
One thing I would like to say here is these kids know a little bit about Rosetta mission, maybe not the whole part, but Philae
yeah,
lander I've heard.
yes,
So little bit about Philae lander and how the
yeah,
comets are named. The long C's at P. I don't remember the exact name, but how
yeah,
they are named, the very complicated name of the comet.
yes,
So those things they have heard a little bit.
yeah,
Coming to my question, you mentioned cause, reason,
yes,
and significance.
yes,
So, what age would you say it is good to start thinking about it, or as a parent, have a discussion with our child about this? Because right now, my son is very focused on science and tech.
yeah,
He's very excited about
yes,
satellites
yes,
and rockets. But if you
yeah.
talk about why he wants this and all, he will just say, "I want it." That's all. He doesn't know why.
Yeah, I think it's generally better when they are, possibly ending their primary school, I would say, after the 10th standard or somewhere.
Yeah.
uh, because as a person, that's the reason, I had to go out of India, to possibly get a sense of the social sciences and how things work. because at my time, after 10th standard, the social sciences was absolutely cut off. Like if you want to do something in science, there was not even an optional subject in social sciences. We didn't had geography, we didn't had history, nothing. So I would say after the 10th standard is something they need to look at this aspect. I'm not sure if that's the same educational format right now in India, where in 11th and 12th, after taking the science, you don't really have any kind of social sciences subject with it, because it is very important that you have the history, civics, geography, economics, at least in the minor way. If you try to consume this kind of subject along with the science, of course, in the mainstream in 11th and 12th, it helps you kind of give you the reason, because I think 11th and 12th is the point where the load of science increases a lot. I mean, it increases on a technical level too much. It causes literally a lot of pressure on your brain. And I think, as a person, like, I saw a lot of my batchmates fail, not fail as in like the exam, but fail in terms, capturing what they wanted to do, because they, and even me, we didn't really had the knowledge base of the social sciences, where we could read, possibly try to kick our own mind to think, why we are doing it. Because all we were doing in 11th and 12th standard was, derivation, integration, physics, mathematics, matrix. But yeah, apart from that, we didn't really had any reason. I mean, we didn't know what was its application in economics, because economics has a very high level application of mathematics, which I came to know literally after doing bachelor's, which is very sad, I think, in the Indian system. And so I believe, I think after the 10th standard, it is really good. I mean, these days, because students consume a lot of social media, so they themselves might start discussing with you itself that, they would like to know the reason why they are doing it. So I believe, I hope this answers your question.
Thank you so much. And you
Yeah.
have partially kind of answered my next question also. I wanted to ask, what did you study to come to this place? Like your career, how did you end up being here? And
Yeah.
at what point you knew this is what you want to do?
So the thing is, I always wanted to get into defense, Indian Armed Forces. And what happened was, like, until my 12th standard, I was in the military school in Ahmednagar, here in Maharashtra. But later on, I was giving exams for the National Defense Academy. I didn't clear the first attempt. Then the second attempt I cleared, SSB I cleared through. But in the medical, I got to know that I have flat foot. So if you have flat foot or knock knees, you're medically rejected. So you cannot enter any kind of armed forces, neither Navy, neither Air Force, neither Army. And I think when I got this rejection, I was already in the halfway of my first year of bachelor's. And I had taken the subjects, I think chemistry, biology, zoology, and geology as a combination in my bachelor's. And when I got this rejection, I was literally like broken in half. Like, I couldn't go back, I couldn't go ahead, because I was already halfway into the bachelor's degree. And all my life, I just wanted to enter the Indian Defense. So what I did was, like, I sat with one of our geology professors, and they told me that, geology has some part, where the space connection is there. So I started digging out on the space side, what exactly, the connection is, how defense comes into the play. Then I found that, okay, so, space that we see, like exploration, moon missions, this is less than one part of the space industry. But the prime part is the consumer, is the military. So military has been the prime consumer of the space industry, and that's how then I started my journey towards the space industry. Then I think in my bachelor's third year, I took, I think, satellite and remote sensing. In under geology, I took satellite and remote sensing as my specialization, and under that, I think, yeah, then I think the way to the space industry started. But later on, again, there was a question, whether to be in the scientific side of the space industry, or whether to be in the non-technical. That is, non-technical means maybe sales, business, management, strategy, this kind of things. So I was doing internship at National Institute of Ocean Technology in Velachery, Chennai. And over there, I was a geology intern. And I think in that 1.5 month of period, I got to know like I'm absolutely horrible in science. Like I cannot sit in one laboratory and do research. So that's where I started thinking possibly I need to little bit change because I need people around me when I work. So then I came back to Pune, where I did my bachelor's. Then I pursued a short-term diploma in journalism, photojournalism, and then I started reporting on space and defense issues primarily. And while working as a journalist itself, I also took some short-term courses in Pune related to American studies, international relations, geopolitics, and everywhere I took all the short projects on the space industry only, like what is the diplomatic application of social sciences and space diplomacy. Then I think the history of the space. What are the prime applications of economics in the space industry? So in this short part-time courses that I did while working as a space and defense journalist in Pune, I I tried to took up this kind of short courses through which then I develop a niche proper that I would like to possibly enhance my non-technical side of the space industry, that is management, then sales, business. And I think later on, after in 2017, then I came to France for my master's. And after that, after doing my master's, then things started in a full-fledged way that I worked as a consultant for an American company in France remotely itself. Then later in 2020, I started my own company. So I think it was a mixed bag journey of everything. But yeah, like I ended up doing what I wanted at the end of the day. Like I ended up working for defense. Like I wanted to work for the Indian defense, but today I work literally for even for American defense forces. I work even for European defense forces. Recently, I did some short projects for even Indian defense as well. So there are like I wanted to work for one defense forces, but I ended up working for different kind of defense forces of the world. So I think this was a surprise life had for me. I would say. I hope
It
this answer
sounds
your
very
question. Yeah,
exciting, and yes, yes, it sounds exciting and interesting. I have
yeah,
I have been reading your LinkedIn posts, and they're very
yeah,
insightful. It gives me a very different perspective from what I would have had otherwise. So
yeah,
it gives like perspectives from many
yeah.
other ways as well. So I would have
Yeah.
otherwise seen only one angle.
Yes.
Now it
Thank
kind of
you.
gives me from various fields, like you mentioned, economics and various fields, as well
Yeah.
as various other countries, how they would pursue it.
Yes.
So that is that is something that your LinkedIn posts have opened my thinking to,
Yeah.
because otherwise I would not have had this.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Thank
One
you.
more question.
Yeah.
Sorry to be asking so many
No,
questions.
no, no. It's absolutely fine. Please ask me as many questions as you want. And you have my email address as well. Let me just put it over here. Like
Yes.
if anyone would like to contact me from email, uh, and I think you have my website as well. I think I'll put up the website as well over here in case you would like to access or look at my work as well. So I put my website as well over here. So I mean, like if you have even more questions, then we can shoot up my one email as well. So it's saying it's up to you. Yeah, let me know what was your question.
So, how do I approach talking this economic or geopolitical aspect to little kids? When I say
Yeah,
kids, generally I don't like to categorize anyone by their age, but
yeah,
because in many places, scientific places, they have this lower limit of
yeah,
age, sixth grade or eighth grade students minimum.
yeah,
My son is in grade 3, and his understanding of the science and tech aspect is much beyond his age. But
yeah.
when it comes to these non-STEM, as you had put it in the presentation,
Yes,
he is just not interested. It's not that he can't understand. If he wants
yes.
to, he can understand, but he doesn't want to.
Yeah, I think as I said that possibly after the 10th standard it will be good, but maybe you can keep them showing some kind of fun content. For example, there are several YouTube channels as well. But there are films as well. Like for example, there's a really good film called as Bridge of Spies. I mean, it's little bit hard to consume for kids, but I would say films and this kind of mediums are really good way for students, get familiarity with what is geopolitics, how does it work, and why it is necessary. Like it's really not necessary for you to understand fully how it works as an engineer if you want to be in the technical side. But it is important to understand it affects your daily life in one way or the another. For example, the policy or the space law that ISRO will pass on, maybe tomorrow or day after, whatever decisions they will take, it's directly going to affect you as an engineer. Like for example, if for example tomorrow if some space agency in whichever country you are, maybe you are in Africa or in maybe in India or maybe in any East Asian nation. So if you are working as a engineer on a very high level project, and tomorrow if a group of lawyer of the country come together and decide that okay, the thing is our economic situation is down, and so we need to reduce the space budget. If they pass that policy for that year to reduce the budget, believe me, as an engineer, you're going to be affected. Possibly, you're going to be fired from your job, or maybe you're going to be laid off temporarily. So, this is the way policy, law, geopolitics affects you, because the national interests are always in the front of the nation. So, I would say this is a kind of an example that I wanted to present where you know it's not necessary for you to take a deep dive into the geopolitics if you're an engineer or working on the technical side, but it is important to understand the place where you're working, or the country where you're working, where it is standing, uh, what are its ambitions, where it is looking towards the space investment in next 15 years or 10 years. Like this general aspects, understanding this is fine. You don't have to take a deep dive into it.
Thank you. When you mention movies, his eyes are lighting up. So, yeah, that is a great approach.
Yeah, films are generally a good approach. As I said, uh, if you see NASA, I mean, it's an unfortunate thing that even though India has a vast amount of film industry pathways, we don't really have the content which aligns, scientifically or in a strategic manner. So if you see any kind of American film, you will always see, NASA, U.S. Defense Forces, even their intelligence agency, because there in United States there is a law where the Hollywood actually can go to these agencies if they want to show NASA, if they want to show CIA, if they want to show any kind of U.S. Marines or Navy SEALs, they can actually go. The Hollywood filmmakers, the directors, or the production students, they can actually go to these agencies, consult them formally, and then use at least some real elements in the films. That's the reason, as I said in the presentation, people know more about NASA than European Space Agency, even though European Space Agency has achieved much more higher milestone. As I said, it's about Rosetta, but people will still know about NASA because the influence that United States has through the projection of films is much more higher, because no other country has had this kind of influence. And this all is possible because United States, they really have a good combination of social sciences in their education. Like I'm not sure until the education of 12th standard, but at least in bachelor's they really have this gelled combination. Like whether you take an engineering, whether you take any kind of science side of subjects, for first and second year you're going to have some social subjects to choose as minor subjects. So even though the student is pursuing engineering, they as side by side in the minor or the secondary subjects they'll be studying economics, philosophy, or maybe filmmaking. I know some of my batchmates who pursued electrical engineering, and in minor they had studies like theaters, filmmaking, or economics, or international relations. So that's the reason the audience over there is much more advanced, even as compared to the European region. Like I work in France, and I know the system in the United States is much more, I would say, gelled in terms of making you a kind of a person with a 360-degree perspective.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. One second, Jayatri. Sorry.
Yes.
One more question related to the previous one.
Yeah.
Even regarding this reading, writing, listening, and speaking,
Yes.
uh, I am an instrumentation engineer and also an instructional designer. So I know the importance of writing, even if you are an engineer. But
Yes.
my son, he kind of looks down upon these skills, or maybe he thinks he already
Yeah.
has them. Even now,
Yeah.
I have had this discussion with him before also. And while
Yeah.
you were presenting, I told him, see, he's also telling the same, what I have been telling you.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm already good in writing and speaking. He thinks he already knows whatever
Yeah.
is known.
Yeah. I think the thing is, I would like to put it in this way. I always tell people, uh, everyone is a writer, but not everyone is a good writer. Like, when I tell some of my colleagues, who are possibly at a director position, some of them, and I tell them to, possibly write something about themselves, and they write it, but it's not the way you should write it, because there are different formats. For example, if people ask me what kind of writing you do for the magazines, I tell them, I do opinion, thought leadership, because there are different formats of writing. For example, uh, if I'm writing a short story, what kind of short story it is? Is it a fictional, whether it's a non-fiction? So every kind of writing has a format. So that's the reason, and you cannot be expert in everything. So that's the reason it is very important to differentiate. But on a basic level, if you want to be a good writer, what I mean is like you should be able to write good about yourself. Like, just writing some things like, okay, my name is Omkar Nikam and I'm a special defense consultant. Okay, these two lines are not going to, give me or attract a lot of investors. But if I say in this fashion that, hello and welcome, today I'm here to present, giving a context to something, adds much more value. But writing something in a layman's term, oh no, that's not, that is not going to add you the value. So I would say writing is a skill set where you need to understand the format. And as I said previously, you cannot be expert in every kind of format. But what you can do is, at the most minimum, is be good in writing about yourself or the thing or the subject that you're specializing in. Apart from that, if you don't write good about anything else, it's fine, because you're not a professional writer. But you need to have the skill set to the level where you're able to write up good about yourself and the thing that you do. For example, if you're maybe a mechanical engineer, or maybe an economist, or maybe a painter, or maybe a digital artist, or maybe a filmmaker, you should be able to write good about what you do. It should be in a presentable manner. It shouldn't be in a layman's term. For example, like my name is XX and my profession is XX. Okay, but this is kind of layman's term. Even ChatGPT can generate it. You need to write it some in a way that it should be presentable. And one important thing I would like to tell about writing is, because I'm myself, I'm a writer, and the thing is, everything in this world starts with writing. So the presentation I gave you right now, I made a first, like a small sketch in writing about it, like how I'm going to present it, which slides will be there, and then I started designing it. So especially if you see the films that you see, the YouTube channels that you see, the YouTube content creators, if you ask them, they will also tell you the same thing. Everything starts from writing. A film that you see on a big screen, on OTT platform, or a TV series that you see, these also start from writing. Until and unless you cannot write well, a film or even a TV series cannot be shot well. And that's the reason in India, even though we have several billion dollars of investment in the film industry, we don't really have good content. Because I mean, good content in a way, as I said, that I could give you examples of the United States, but I could hardly give you any examples of Bollywood or any other films where students can come and watch and understand what is geopolitics, what is international relations. because we don't really have the writers of that grade. And this is the kind of a situation, where writing is very important. Like, until you don't write, you cannot do anything, whether it's a speech, whether it's a film, whether you're an engineer. So if you're an engineer, definitely, I would say, once you reach the position of, I think, senior engineer, it is very much presentable that you need to write proposals, for the satellite bids, to receive the projects, to receive the funds. That involves a lot of writing. If you're doing a PhD, that involves a lot of writing. You're going to write a lot of letter of motivations, I think, statement of purpose for fellowship, for grants. So this involves this on this level, your writing should be good. That's what I'm just trying to say. Because if you're not really a good writer, then I think you won't be able to achieve the targets, even if you're good in your subjects. Because I have seen a lot of people in and around me who have been an excellent engineers, but have been absolutely failures in writing skill set, and that's the reason they were unable to get the fellowship. See, a good writer with an average engineering skills can bag a fellowship very easily, but a good engineer with average writing skills will never be able to bag the fellowship, because the way you present yourself matters a lot. Like, the way, I would say, the way you sell your own skill set matters a lot. And when you're writing, you need to be presented in a way that you convince the person who is reading your letter or your proposal. You need to convince them. So that writing format is, something that you should be expert in presenting yourself. So that's the reason the writing skill set is very important.
Thank you, Omkar. I completely agree. I hope my son also will realize the importance
Yeah.
sometime soon. Yes,
Yeah.
Jayashri, please ask your question.
Yeah, Suchitra, we both are on the same, sailing in the same boat, I believe, because my son too doesn't like to write anything. Okay. and, and now
Yeah.
he is telling that, oh my God, just what his dad says. Yeah, the same thing has been repeated to him, it seems. So my
Yeah.
question basically is, yeah, okay. My question basically is, see,
Yes.
my son, and even for that matter, Suchitra's son, we are homeschooling them. Okay.
Okay.
Does I have this one when you're talking about career? That's why I just wanted to ask you: does
Yes.
homeschooling affect their entering into engineering colleges or something like that? Because recently
Yeah.
I've been hearing about this. That's why I just wanted to know further studies. Does
Yeah.
schooling actually proper schooling that is which is registered or
Yeah.
something like that? Does that matter a lot in their future? Is what I just wanted to know.
I would say, from my experience, if they are getting at least, a day or two possibly, or maybe at least, I would say, 3 days in a week, if they're getting to know or be in a group of children, or a group of, kids, or a group of students, then I think homeschooling is fine as well, because the whole point of, I think, the school is, as far as what I have learned from my personal experience, is knowing the discipline and knowing how to become good in socializing. As I said, cooperation. Like, I think there is no other fantastic example than school, regarding how to socialize and how to possibly be disciplined. So I think if these two things you are already teaching them, then I think homeschooling is fine as well. So I think I don't see any issue, I mean, in homeschooling, if you have these two things.
Okay, because when you were talking about ISRO and this one,
Yeah.
so getting into engineering this one, colleges or something like that,
Yes.
do they look at normal schooling? Is what I was just thinking. That's why I just wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I would say, like, to answer this in a more extended manner. So the thing is, I would like to tell. I
Mm.
mean, when I was coming here to France, literally no one even asked me what, give me a certificate of 10th standard, or which school you were, or even 10th standard. All they asked me was from bachelor's degree. So
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, even now when I became a permanent resident now in France, when I went for the renewal of my resident at that time, I just went with my bachelor's and master's degree that I had in France, the master's and bachelor's in India. Like, I mean, the 10th and 12th standard certificate is useful only until bachelor's. So
Yeah,
after
that's
that, yeah, after
into
that, it
bachelor's
doesn't
is what
help
I'm
actually.
asking. Yeah,
Yeah,
to get into the bachelor's is what I'm asking. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So after that,
Oh.
it's not really that
Yeah,
important.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. After that, anyways, we'll be having our bachelor's
Yes,
math certificate, which matters. But to
yes,
get into bachelor's is what I'm just,
yes,
I was asking for. Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
yes,
Yeah, I also have flat foot, and I was not aware that
yeah,
in any military jobs with they will not take if you have flat foot. So that was a little bit
yeah.
shocking for me as well.
Yeah, so I have the flat foot since my birth only. That's the reason like I couldn't actually enter. It's kind of, I mean, like that thing is not in our hands, right? It's natural from birth.
Yes, I
Yeah,
guess some surprises everybody will get on their path. So we have to be
yeah,
just
yeah.
ready for any such changes and do
Yes,
course
yes.
corrections as
Yeah, yeah.
needed.
Yes. Yes. I think all I would like to tell, the students is like you should keep going on. You should connect, like learn to connect the dots, uh, because that's what I learned, from my journey itself. And I would say, especially when I was in military school, so we were not getting prepared only for, to get into the defense forces or something. We're getting prepared to counter the obstacles in life. It might be inside the defense force, it might be outside the defense forces. So I think that's where I learned how to connect the dots in my military school. And I think it helped me later in the future when this thing happened. I was unable to enter the armed forces, and that's where I started connecting the dots. Like I took up geology, I found the connection of space in that, and through that, then I found the connection of defense in the space industry, because defense forces are the prime consumers of the space resources. And yeah, finally I ended up being what I wanted. Of course, I'm not in a uniform, but I still work for the military agencies a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Resilience and character building, it
yeah,
is the main purpose of education. I mean,
yeah,
of course, we learn STEM subjects and non-STEM subjects in
yes,
school,
yes,
but this is more important to face life as a human being.
yes, yes, definitely. Yeah,
If it is okay, if you're permitted, could you please share a little bit about your
yeah,
projects and what type of work you are doing and how
yeah.
you go about it?
Yeah, so currently I work for several agencies and companies, I would say. Not specifically one, because I work on contract basis. I take up contracts from project to project, whether it's a government agency, whether it's a private company, or whether it's even a consulting firm like the big four consulting firms. So I work with them, and if I need, like, if the project is at a bigger level, it might be, for example, this like 3 years back, I was working on some policy project for the Middle Eastern countries and Latin American countries, space policy project. So then the company gives us the contract, they, because I developed this network by going to the conferences. Like people came to know about me, and then the LinkedIn is as well. LinkedIn is has been an amazing resource for me, because I've been using LinkedIn since I was in India, since 2011 and 12. And from that time, I think the LinkedIn has helped me a lot to find opportunities. And it has been very convenient. I mean, it's a platform where the people know me, but I don't know the people. So the projects that I mostly receive is through the references of the industry. And like the space industry is very small. So I mean, there are not more than 10 or 15 lakh. I think I'm telling you even the more number, but I think it's even lesser than that. So it's less than 15 lakh employees are there in total in the complete space industry, less than that, I would say. So it's a very small industry. People know each other, and I receive mostly the projects through the references only. And some of them have a bigger term contract. Some of them have like 5 or 6 years of contract. Some of them have the short term contracts like 2 years, 3 years, or maybe 6 months. And primary work is, as I said, we develop reports, we consult, then we provide the strategy management. For example, if some company is stuck uh, and they want to increase their revenue, then we suggest, whether is it feasible for them to launch the satellite and increase their revenue, or is it possible to just, increase the revenue based on their current asset by, reshuffling few things. For example, I would like to give is like Airtel. So Airtel uses the satellite capacity from a company called SES, and SES is based in Luxembourg. SES is the world's first communication satellite operator, and SES has a lot of satellites. It's because it's of course the world's first satellite communication provider. And I'm just giving an example. So if company like SES comes to us telling us that okay, the revenues have been dropping, what they need to do, then we take up their case, we analyze their finances. So as I said, this is where the social sciences come into the play. So apart from looking at what kind of satellites they have, what kg, what components of the satellite they have, whether they are using the right technology or not. Apart from that, we also have to look at their finances. We also have to look at their economic situation. Also have to look at their historical footprint of, how the distribution sales network was, how who their customers were, and this involves a lot of networking, talking with the people, cooperation with the governments. And as I said in the lecture, this is where the social sciences comes into the play. You need to know the politics. For example, like SCS, if they are doing business in India, or if there is some other satellite operator who wants to do possibly business in the Middle East, I need to know politically what is happening, because you cannot just get up or wake up tomorrow and say that okay, I'm going to do business in Middle East. I will sell satellite capacity. So to sell a satellite capacity, you need to first go to the spectrum office or the telecom authority of the country. Then they will tell you what are their charges of filing the spectrum licenses. Then based on that, then you will the company will be able to sell the capacity. For example, now SCS, if they're selling the capacity here in India, they are paying. They have to first acquire the license from the Indian government for some specific duration, and then they are able to sell the capacity. It was even if I think it was even same with Tata Sky as well. So Tata Sky also used to use satellite capacity from several different companies, including I think SES also. So to sell capacity to Tata Sky in India, again companies like SES need to take permission, get the license, and this is where the space lawyers, space policymakers come into the play, because there happens a bidding inside the government for a spectrum allocation. The several megahertz will be allocated to SCS to broadcast some channels. If they're broadcasting maybe Z News, or maybe possibly some kind of other channel, Colors TV and all. So if they need to broadcast this kind of channels, they have to go through these legal aspects. Whether they have to tell the government, okay, they are going to broadcast these many channels through the satellite, and that's the reason they need this kind of spectrum or bandwidth. And once the government approves them, then they are able to sell the capacity to Airtel, to Tata Sky, and that's how then you get to see the channels on your mainstream television. So we actually consult in this process to to the companies and even to the government agencies. But my work primary, it involves in the military side. Of course, I cannot tell much about that due to bit restrictions, but I can tell one thing is that it happens in a similar setting of what I told you about the commercial market right now, about the case about Airtel and SCS. The only thing in military is that it involves a lot of geopolitical analysis. Like, for example, countries like Australia, they have been dependent on United States for ages. Like they invest in satellite of the United States, but they themselves take very less advantage of that investment. So the thing here is, the catch here is, they, why, normal people will ask, if Australia is investing in a satellite, a 600 million or 500 million, and they are not even taking the advantage of, a quarter of the investment that they have invested, then why they're investing in the United States satellite? The reason here is because they want to keep their allied partnerships strong. So these are also the things, how the space industry works. As I said, the national interest comes first. So here the military satellite is absolutely useless. The reason Australia invests in military satellite of the United States is to keep up the relations with their country, keep up their allied partnership with the country. So that's the reason, the geopolitics, international relations is important, and we do analysis on this level as well. If possibly right now Artemis Accords was signed, and I was recently quoted by a website called as Money Control. I shared that post on LinkedIn as well. So I made a thought that the signing of Artemis Accord of the United States and India is not only about science and technology, but it is more about politics, because United States sees India as a potential security navigator to capture the Indo-Pacific region, to counter China in that area. And this is, the space was one of the way to bring India closer to the United States. That's what the US government thought. And that's the reason, of course, India also signed the accords. So this is how, the geopolitics, international relations come into the play. And we do the analysis in this way only, where we consult the government agencies and several, I think, defense intelligence agencies as well, which operate under the government.
Yes, I remember reading the
Yeah.
post on Artemis Accords, and I discussed it with my son as well. So to put it in
Yeah.
a very basic way that even an 8-year-old kid can understand, I told him that there are two groups. One is led by America and one is led by Russia.
Yes.
So should we join? We have to join some group. Should we join this
Yes.
group or that group? So, like you mentioned, America is preferable because of some reasons discussed in your article that as much as I could, I discussed with him. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, my question is: are there any books or online courses or
Yeah.
anything that for me as a parent, not for kids, but for
Yeah.
me, considering as a very basic or a beginner level, is there
Yes.
anything, any resources for me to understand geopolitics and international relations?
Uh, yeah, I'm actually not sure, because, as I said, like I myself have done these courses, in bits and pieces, from like short courses. But I'm actually revamping my company website, and we are going to start a full-fledged courses,
Oh,
where
that's
you can, yeah, where you can actually just come buy the course and take it,
okay.
or
That's
possibly
great.
even rent it, because renting is much more cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
rather than paying full amount sometimes. So you can even rent it. So I think I'll forward you my website. I think it's
Yes,
going to
please.
take a month or two. But there are some courses, but there are not full-fledged courses on like the space applications, or international relations from the space perspective. Those are not available. At least I haven't seen personally. There might be some webinars or talk shows, but there is not a full-fledged course on it. But I'm
Okay.
I'm designing personally right now, and I think it will be live
Looking
on our
forward to it.
website. Yeah, I think in a month or two it should be live. Yeah.
That's great news.
Yes.
I, I'll definitely go through that when it comes
Yes,
out.
definitely. Thank you.
So those were my questions. Jayashree, you have anything to ask? Varun?
Uh, no, no, I
Thank you,
had one
Omkar.
question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Sure
for
then.
sharing your time and expertise.
Yes. Thank you very much. It was great to have this session, because I myself have been, I think after a gap of 7 years, I think I have presented this kind of session, because since past 7 years I've been very much busy. I think you all might be knowing, once you are in a foreign country, things are a bit tough on every scale. So like I've been very much swamped in my work and education and all those things. But yeah, thank you, Suchitra, again for innovating for this talk. And I hope like students take away a lot of key things out of it.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Got to learn a lot.
sure. Yes. Have a good day.
Yeah.
See you.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. You too.